Few sequels manage to improve upon their predecessor in nearly every conceivable way. Fewer still become genre defining masterpieces that remain relevant decades after release. Yet that is exactly what Resident Evil 2 was able to accomplish when it launched all the way back in 1998. Building on the foundation laid by the original game, Resident Evil 2 expanded the scope, improved the storytelling, and refined the gameplay systems, and delivered one of the most memorable survival horror experiences ever created. While modern audiences may struggle with its dated controls and presentation, Capcom's sequel remains not only one of the best entries in the franchise, but one of the most important horror games ever made. Following the success of the original Resident Evil, Capcom faced the difficult task of creating a sequel that could satisfy a rapid growing fan base. Rather than simply repeating the formula, the development team dramatically expanded the game's scale. The isolated Spencer Mansion was replaced by the sprawling streets of Raccoon City. The cast was larger, the enemy roster more varied, the story became more ambitious, and the production values noticeably improved. Everything fans loved about the first game was preserved, while nearly every aspect received meaningful enhancements. At the time, survival horror was still a relatively young genre, and there were plenty of platformers, shooters, and RPGs competing for attention. But very few games offered the kind of tension, atmosphere, and the cinematic horror that Resident Evil pioneered. As a result, the anticipation for the sequel reached extraordinary levels, and remarkably, somehow, the game lived up to all that hype. Even today, it's easy to see why so many fans consider this the definitive classic era Resident Evil game. The game is set roughly 2 months after the original. Resident Evil 2 shifts the focus from conspiracy and isolation to a full scale catastrophe. The T virus outbreak has consumed Raccoon City, transforming much of its population into zombies, and amid the chaos arrive two protagonists. You got Leon S. Kennedy, a rookie police officer beginning his first day on the job, and Claire Redfield, a college student searching for her missing brother Chris, main character from the original game. Both characters arrive separately, only to find the city collapsing around them. After a brief meeting during the opening chaos, they become entangled in a desperate struggle for survival that takes them through the city's police station, an underground laboratory, sewer, and beyond. The premise itself is actually quite simple: survive and escape. What elevates the narrative is its execution. The story never becomes unnecessarily complicated. Instead, it focuses on strong pacing, memorable characters, and an ever present sense of danger. The game introduces important newcomers like Ada Wong and Sherry Birkin, while simultaneously expanding the broader mythology surrounding the Umbrella Corporation, the bad guys. Unlike many modern games that explain everything, like down to every detail, Resident Evil 2 trusts players to piece together parts of its narrative through the environmental storytelling, the files, and just clear observation. The result is a story that feels complete while still leaving enough mystery to maintain the intrigue. Most importantly, the characters remain surprisingly optimistic despite the freaking horrors surrounding them. Leon's very determined and Claire's very compassionate. Ada's mystery and Sherry's vulnerability create an emotional core that helps distinguish the game from many darker modern interpretations. One of Resident Evil 2's most innovative features is its dual scenario structure. Players can begin as either Leon or Claire, completing what is known as the A scenario. Finishing that campaign unlocks the corresponding B scenario for the other character. This isn't merely a replay with a different character model. Enemy placement changes, item locations move, there's new story scenes, additional bosses. Certain decisions made during the first playthrough will influence you on the second. The result is a campaign structure that creates the illusion of two interconnected survivors experiencing the same disaster, but from very different perspectives. Although modern games have expanded on very similar concepts, this system must have felt revolutionary back in 1998 and significantly increased its replay value. The feature isn't quite as transformative as nostalgia sometimes suggests. Like, the scenarios still share a substantial amount of content. The differences are often more subtle than dramatic. Nevertheless, it remains one of the game's most impressive achievements and helps create a uniquely layered experience. And at its core, Resident Evil 2 remains a masterclass in survival horror. The gameplay really revolves around resource management, the exploration, the puzzle solving, inventory planning, and its strategic combat. Unlike modern action oriented entries, every bullet mattered here. Every healing item is valuable, every decision will carry a consequence. The game's fixed camera angles and tank controls have become one of its most controversial aspects for newcomers. They can feel cumbersome and outdated. Character movement lacks the fluidity modern players expect, and combat requires patience as well as precision. Yet these limitations also contribute heavily to the game's atmosphere and feel. The camera obstructs threats. Movement restrictions create a vulnerability. Combat feels dangerous because players are never fully in control. Rather than empowering the player, the game constantly reminds them of their fragility. The design philosophy creates tension that modern horror games struggle to replicate. Backtracking remains a significant part of this experience, but Capcom smartly fills familiar areas with new enemies, evolving circumstances, and some unexpected surprises. Revisiting locations rarely feels completely repetitive. Puzzle design represents another major strength, not only of this game, but the franchise as a whole. Unlike many contemporary horror games that reduce puzzles to simple key hunts, Resident Evil 2 frequently asks players to observe clues, interpret information, and think critically about the environment they're in. Some puzzles are very straightforward, others can be surprisingly cryptic. While a few feel somewhat disconnected from a realistic setting, they provide an important rhythm that balances combat and exploration. The police station in particular serves as one of the finest locations in survival horror history. It's part Gothic mansion, part civic building. It features as an interconnected puzzle box filled with locked doors, hidden passages, and very memorable set pieces. Exploration feels rewarding because every discovery has tangible value. The enemy variety is also a substantial improvement over the first game. The traditional zombies return in greater numbers, but they're also joined by some of the franchise's most iconic creatures, like the Lickers, the mutated plants, William Birkin, who constantly is changing with grotesque transformations, the alligator. The monster design expertly blends the body horror, science fiction, and biological corruption. Even decades later, many of these creatures remain visually striking. Weapon variety is also improved. Leon and Claire possess distinct arsenals that encourage different playstyles. Leon generally receives more practical and upgradable firearms, while Claire gains access to more experimental weapons, much like the grenade launcher. Not every weapon is equally useful, but the variety contributes to replay value and gives each campaign its own identity. The game's challenge peaks during the B scenarios. While resources become scarcer and enemy encounters are far more threatening, here Resident Evil 2 truly reveals its survival horror roots. Players can no longer eliminate every threat and must learn when avoidance becomes the smartest strategy. By modern standards, the game's polygonal character models have undoubtedly aged. The pre rendered backgrounds, however, remain remarkably effective. Much like I said with the first game, these detailed environments, dramatic lighting, and cinematic camera placements create an atmosphere that still holds up surprisingly well to this day. The police station, laboratory sewers, and the city streets all possess a distinctive identity and visual personality. In many ways, the fixed camera presentation actually enhances a cinematic feel. Every room resembles a carefully framed movie shot designed to maximize tension and the game's visual storytelling. And the sound design deserves equal praise. Enemy noises provide crucial information about unseen threats. Footsteps echo through hallways, distant groans hint at danger lurking beyond your camera's view. The soundtrack shifts effortlessly between suspense, dread, and action. Because players frequently cannot see what's ahead, audio becomes a critical survival tool rather than simple background decoration. The result is an atmosphere that remains effective even after my countless replays. Now, despite its legendary status, Resident Evil 2 isn't flawless. The tank controls can be incredibly frustrating for newcomers. Character differences, while present, are less mechanically significant than those found in the original Resident Evil. Some puzzles stretch believability, and portions of the scenario system are arguably oversold by nostalgia, in my opinion. Likewise, players raised on modern horror games might find the slower pacing difficult to adjust to initially, but yet most of these shortcomings are products of the era rather than a genuine design failure. They rarely diminish the experience enough to overshadow the game's strengths, which, to be honest, there are many of them. Now, the remake is exceptional in its own right, delivering modern visuals, immersive third person gameplay, and genuinely terrifying horror. And trust me, we will be reviewing that soon and we will get even deeper into it. However, the remake and original, they serve different purposes. The remake emphasizes its realism, brutality, and its relentless tension, while the original emphasizes atmosphere, optimism, charm, and that classic survival horror design. Neither really replaces the other. What makes the 1998 version special isn't simply nostalgia, it's the heart beneath the horror. Leon, Claire, and the supporting cast approach unimaginable circumstances with courage and humanity. Their optimism provides an emotional contrast to the nightmare that's going on around them. That unique balance of horror and hope remains one of the original game's defining strengths, and why I think people should still play it even today with the remake out there. Resident Evil 2 represents survival horror at its finest. It expands upon everything that made the original successful while introducing memorable characters, innovative mechanics, outstanding atmosphere, and some of the franchise's best level design. Yes, its controls are dated. Yes, certain elements show their age. But great game design always transcends technical limitations. And Resident Evil 2 is freaking jam packed with great design. All these years later, it remains a benchmark for the genre and a shining example of how to create tension, atmosphere, and player investment without sacrificing the most important thing: heart. It is a landmark survival horror classic that remains every bit as important today as it was in 1998. And it is every horror fan's duty to experience this game at least once. Well, that is the Resident Evil 2 review done and dusted. Finally, I'm really happy to have that one out the gate. I feel like I've had that one cooked up for a little while now, but it's done, it's out, and I'm just going to take a minute before I end this review just to talk to you guys really quickly. Remember, sorry, I'm a little sick at the moment. Remember, if you guys enjoy the reviews, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Costs you nothing, makes me feel good, and definitely helps. Going forward, there's going to be a few changes. I think I'm going to start doing the reviews a little bit different and do them more in a sort of video essay style than what a review that you would kind of see on IGN or something like that. Like, I really want to get in depth into the games because I've been playing a few games lately that I just feel like need more of a discussion than a standard review. Now, the standard reviews you'll still see from me will be over on 1UP Games, but here on 1UP Kyle, I want to take the time, dissect the games, so the videos may be a little bit longer, but I'm hoping they'll be of better quality. Now, I'm not going to waffle on. Just be aware, there's going to be some new content coming, some new style of reviews coming. I just pre-warning, I very much appreciate all the love I've been getting on the videos, guys. Honestly, it means a lot. But yeah, definitely go check out some of the other reviews, the Lego Batman review, the 007 First Light review, and the other Resident Evil reviews we have here on the channel. But yeah, look forward to some new, more in-depth video essay style reviews coming very soon, and just some general changes to the channel going forward. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it. If you made it to the end, please comment down below what reviews you would like to see on the channel. Definitely check out the Google spreadsheet, make sure that it's working. I have a list of all the reviews I have planned, as well as reviews I've done, and links to all those reviews in the spreadsheet. If you can't find it on the channel, great way to keep track of everything I'm doing here. Please go and check it out. But that's going to do it from me. Until next time, may your games be good ones, and I will catch you guys in the next video.